Okay, so just getting you set up with your project. For this semester, the BIM project I went through in class in terms of the project brief. I explained that you need to download the information. Now, to access the information, I'm in the full-time module here in Brightspace, but it's the same for the part-time. So click Assessment, click Assignments, and here it is here, this BIM project 2. So I'm just going to make sure I'm in student view just for the moment so you see what I see. And once you're in student view, just try it again, assessments. It's this BIM semester 2 project. So you can either click that or you can click on either one of these icons down here. This is the brief itself that I went through. And then this is the link to the project folder. So all the information that's part of the project is in that project folder, and you can go ahead, that shared folder, and go ahead and download that information by highlighting what you want to download and then clicking download here with the 3 dots. So you're probably used to that now. That's OneDrive. Um, what you need to do for, I suppose, getting started in this exercise for the most part is download the classification template from the ICMS and download the PDF drawings. So click the drawings, click the PDF, and select all those drawings and download them. So you can either download all the information um, at once, or you can just download what you need for the time being. So I'm going to go quickly into Autodesk Takeoff. I'm going to dip into my account administration. So you should have been set up at this stage. I told you to let me know if you can see it or not. You should all see a project. In my case, let's just look for me. Here it is here, semester 2, Dermot Kelly, MC4. So obviously it'll be semester 2, your name, MC4. So every single person that's registered on the full-time and part-time modules should see that. If they don't, well, then you can't start your project. It's something that I'll need to register on, and I told you that in class today. So once that comes up, obviously you'll see your tutorials there as well, but that's the one you're going to work on, semester 2, Dermot Kelly, or your name. When you're brought to it, you'll be brought into the members page. You'll see my name as well as your own. What you need to do is then click on the Takeoff app. Okay, so the Takeoff app then is essentially where you'll do your measurement. And for the moment, there's nothing really set up in here. Now mine's shown correct to the classification. I'm in Home. Because the classification has already been added. So to add your classification, that'll be grayed out like those boxes are. You'll click on the first icon here, define your classification, click on it. And this is where you add the ICMS template that you would have downloaded. So looking again at this My Drive, it's drawings and models, sorry, BIM project. So this classification template, that's where you'll add that. So obviously it has to be downloaded. It's in an Excel version. Clicking back in packages. Make sure that you click metric and then click the upload custom classification and then import custom system. Go find where the ICMS is. There it is there in my case. That's where I downloaded it, and click open. So in it goes, and there's the codes there. But don't forget to click Save Custom System. Now I had already done that. That's why it came up as a default classification ICMS in there. But once that's done, you can go back to home and you'll see it correct. You'll know it's done if you get a little correct here beside the first icon. So uploading the drawings then is the next thing to do. Click the next icon, upload drawings, and there's nothing in there for the moment. So what you need to do is, there is 3D files that will upload at some stage, but we're going to work on 2D sheets for the moment. So in 2D sheets here, under Sheets and Models, select Upload. We'll give it a second. You can upload from the repository. We don't have anything in there right now, and that's the way I uploaded your in your tutorials. But you'll be uploading from your computer because you've downloaded it to wherever. Navigate to where you save those PDF files, and then click the first one. Hold down Control, Shift, and click the last one. Or you can just hold down Control and click every one of those. So we've got basement plans, sorry, we've got floor plans, we've got elevations, we've got sections, etc. And I'm going to click Open, and they're going through the uploading process there. So once that's done, just down below here, you'll get next to version set. So I'm going to click that, and what you'll do then is you'll type in version. Let's call it version 1. Ooh, name already exists. Let's call it version 2. It probably won't exist in your case because I've already done this. Select issue date. Today is fine, or whenever you upload it, and then we're going to go through our sheet numbers. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to number them from 1 through 14. It'll go through a kind of process here of sheet thumbnails. It'll give us some errors, but that's fine because it's trying to locate a number on the drawing. Now, there's no title blocks on the drawings, so it won't be able to locate them, so we're going to type them in. So I know this one's the basement plan because it's written next to the actual page there, page 1. So I might just say base and call it 1. So basement plan or BP is probably fine. And the next one is first floor plan and call that number 2. I'm just giving it kind of a shorthand version of what it is. Front elevation, let's say front elevation, FE, and that's number 3. And then we've got ground floor plan, GFP, for keeping it consistent, and that's number 4. So I'm working my way through this in terms of giving them a name. Left side elevation, LSE, left side elevation number 5, and then this is rear elevation, rear elevation number 6, and then keep going. And the right side elevation number 7. Second floor plan. That's number 8. I think there's 14 in total. So S9 for section. S10, I believe. S11. Now you can do this yourself. I'm just going through a set of process with you. It's pretty self-explanatory. S12 and S13. And then I believe the last one is third floor plan. TVP or TFP plan 14. So hopefully there's no errors in there. I just double check. The main thing is I have them numbered and I can basically identify which is which, because when I move on, it won't give me this basement plan, but I want to know which is which. So BP will tell me that it's basement plan. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm happy with that. Oh, that's gone missing again. That does that sometimes. TFP 14. Okay. Third floor plan. Next, titles and tags. You might have to click it twice for some reason. Okay, and I know that this one, even though its sheet number is BP, is the basement plan. That's why I called it BP instead of just number 1. Base plan. What's this? First floor plan. And then front elevation. You can kind of see what they are. Ground floor plan. What's that? That's left side elevation. Now it's a bit of a long-winded process, but it's worthwhile doing because it actually there's no confusion in what's what. Rear elevation. Ooh. That's rear side, is it, or right side elevation? Okay, and then we got second floor plan. Quite a few drawings, but they're worthwhile. I kind of went overkill on the drawings and our sections. Section, call it section 1. Section 2. Section 3. Oops. Section 4. Now you could have called it section 11 or 12 or whatever. Keep the consistent numbers, but well, I might as well just section 4. That's a section as well. And you can figure out what sections are what when you look at the actual applicable plans. And then this is the third floor plan, which is ultimately the roof. And these are all structural plans. So I'm actually going to go over here and I'm going to change the tag to structural. Now, if it isn't there, you can type it in and give it, oh, I should have left that the way it was. Structural, 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 structural. Oh, that one, just delete that. Structural, delete that. structural. Now it's tagging them. Obviously, if I had architectural drawings, etc., I would tag them with architecture. In this case, I am tagging them all with structure. I don't have to. It wouldn't really make a difference in terms of my takeoff, but it's worth doing it right. And then the only thing available here will be structure because that's all I have. Okay, so structural structure. It thinks that we got all sorts of different things going on there. So I'm happy enough with that. And that's the last thing, publish sheet. So listen, it's a long-winded process, unfortunately, but at least we've got it set up now. Just because there's a lot of drawings, it would be a little bit easier if I'd named them correctly. But anyway, view sheets. And you'll see them all come up here, basement plan, front elevation, etc. So now if I just click back to home here in the top to see where I'm at, I've got the classification added, I've got my sheets added or my plans added, and I want to create a takeoff package. Now I can do it here, packages, or I can click here and I can create a package. So let's just create a structural 2D package and create package. You can hear beeping going on in the background. That's just me publishing sheets and it's coming through my email. So once I've done that, create package, I'm pretty much ready to go. Now I can go back to home and you'll notice in your home section, you've got to correct, you've got to correct, you've got to correct, you're ready to go. Okay, so back to packages and then click on the package you're taking off. Now this gives you the opportunity to create different packages for different things. It could be mech and elect, it could be structural, architectural. You could even break it down per elements. So I'm going to click structural 2D. And oh, I'll get rid of that there. How do I hide that? Well, I'll leave it there. I'm going to start with the basement plan. Okay, so I'm going to click that basement plan. Okay, so that's my basement floor plan. Take a little bit of time for it to come up. There's some dimensions, etc. on there. Now I don't have a scale on it, so the way we're going to have to scale it, and I know it's not to scale, so I got a big red not to scale down there, or up there and a scale not to scale down there. But I have the opportunity to calibrate it, just like in most software you're probably using. If you click the calibrate button, and then click on one side of a known dimension and then click on the other side of a known dimension. Unit type millimeters and then type in it's 6700. Now make sure that when you did the classification that you had selected meters, otherwise feet and inches will come up there. You can go back and change it if need be if you are seeing feet and inches, but you know that's how you know you're on the wrong track. So once that's in, you can calibrate it. And that's that calibrated at a scale of 1 is to 220. So you can then just do a little measure distance just to double check that point to that point. Ooh, yeah, 6900, thereabouts. Okay, then we're going to go to takeoff types, and we're going to add some takeoff in here. So click plus to create your first takeoff. And I believe there's a number of beams here, and it's just beams that you've been asked to take off in 2D. The few beams, you can look at the sections, you can look at the details, etc. But from me, it's beams, and there's a number of them. There's a 500 by 900. And in fact, let's start with that one. Let's just do one, and then we can duplicate what we need. So it's 500. You can even put 500 wide by 900 deep, and of course they're millimeters. Is it a BIM measurement? No, it's not. Is it count, length, or area? I could measure them in area and define a height to get my volume, but I'll measure them per lineal meter. So that's the way I'm going to measure it. Border, doesn't really matter, give it a color, and then start adding details. So this is quite similar to what you would have done in your tutorials. So I'm just going to click add details and volume. Classification is going to be, now I'm keeping it to the second level. So it'll just be, I won't be drilling down any further than just this level here. So it's either substructure, structure, substructure, or architectural works. And in this case, it's structure because the beams I'm measuring here are part of the suspended floor slab in the basement. I suppose the cover slab of the basement, and that's going to be part of the structure rather than the substructure, as I explained earlier. So click, what am I looking for? Meters cubed here. And what I've got there is a formula, a default formula. Now it's not always right, but if I start typing in distance, it wants to take the measured value, which is going to be what I'm measuring, times the width, which I'm going to type in, user provided value, times, let's say the depth or the height, it doesn't matter. Let's keep it consistent here, user provided value. So distance times width times height. Because I'm measuring the distance, I want to default in I need to default in my width, and that is 0.5 of a meter. Now I could change that to 500 millimeters, it doesn't matter. So 0.5 and 0.9. So that's my volume. Obviously, it's the distance times the width times the height. So additional output, that's obviously what I'm really looking for. Additional output, let's measure formwork. And then classification, keep it the same class. I said the two levels, one level, two levels. Meters squared now. Now it wants to multiply distance by height, and that's not necessarily what I'm looking for in terms of my formwork. I want either side, I want double the height of the beam, and then I want the bottom of the beam. Because obviously I'm going to pour my concrete into the top of the formwork, and it's going to settle, and I'll form my beam that way. So meters squared, kind of a horseshoe if you want to think of it that way. So starting with the distance, which I'm measuring, measured value. Once you start typing in distance, you'll see that it comes up. Times, and then open brackets, the height, which I've already defined, times 2, close brackets, plus the width, right, which is the bottom part. And that should work. I might put brackets, it probably will work as is, but brackets around the complete formula there. So height times 2 first, plus the width times the distance. So I think that is okay for my formwork. So I click that off, that's that done. Then I'm going to click rebar. Also same classification, or type in reinforcement if you want, and then tons. So rebar, O3 structure, they should be all O3 structure. Tons, now it wants to go distance, weight by length, which would be fine if it was a steel beam, but it's actually going to be distance, measure value, and then times, I guess, the height by width. So essentially it's what I did in my volume. If I click up there, in fact I could copy it if need be. Go back to my rebar and paste it in there. Distance times width times height, which is essentially what I did in my volume. So it's getting my volume times, if I type in weight, I've got a number of options here. Is it weight by length, weight by area? It's weight by volume. Now you can take a look, all that was in there in terms of width and height, but down here we'll have a weight by volume. Because once I type that in there, it wants to essentially put in a user-defined value. Now you can look at your template. I had said in the template, Excel template, if you want to click your BIM project folder, if you want to open that car park template, I think beside the description for the beams, concrete beams, there's a rebar of 280 kg per meter cubed. So let's just put that in, 280 kg per meter cubed. So I can do a couple of things. I'm going to save that or start takeoff. So I'm going to start takeoff. And I think I've got it all pretty much ready to go. Up comes my crosshair, and you can do a little measure distance on this if you want, but there's the thicker beams there, 500 millimeters across. So click, double click, measures 1. I'm measuring just one side of the beam, obviously. I could measure through the center line if need be, and you go ahead and measure all the 500 beams on this particular project. Okay, you can do it floor by floor as well. So how you do that is, now you keep going, obviously. That's one there, that's one there, one there. Anywhere you see this thickened beam, this thicker beam as such, you can see that it's 500 across up here as well. So you'll have these ones, but you have to measure all of them. I'm only measuring a few just to give you the gist. Okay, so you can keep going with that one. These ones down here are the smaller ones. That one is what? That's the 300 wide one. So I'll show you that in a second, how you might use this stuff. So obviously that's just on this floor. If you wanted to move on to the next floor, you go ahead, click sheets and models and ground floor plan. And you'll notice when I go into my takeoff types, there's nothing in there. You'd have to scale this and you continue on your measurement. Now it'll only show you what is in each floor plan from floor plan to floor plan in here, but it goes into the inventory down here below, which we'll get to in due course. So sheets and models in my basement plan. Once I've done that, or I can even do it now, I can duplicate that dimension. Okay, so I'm back in my basement plan and I might duplicate that dimension. I might change the next one. There's a 400 by 700, which is the next one down as such. 400 by 700 deep. And obviously there's a couple of things I need to do. I need to change the color. Don't want it the same color. Orange is fine. And then I just need to change my default heights. and my default width. So instead of 0.9, 0.7, and instead of 0.5, 0.4. Did I get that right? Yeah, 7 and 0.4 is my width. Okay, so once I do that, I can start takeoff, and I believe these are my 400 ones here. So through there. Okay, so I'm measuring them. I think these are 400 as well. Now you just double check. I might be taking a visual look to this, and you have to go ahead and measure every beam that's on that floor plan, move on to the next, measure that. Then you'll duplicate that one once you've finished it. Well, you can do it at any stage really. And then you've got the 300 by, what is it, 500. So listen, you're completely set up here. You'd obviously need to change the 5 to 0.5 down there, and that to 0.3, and change the color to something different. And then you start takeoff. And what did I say? These are the ones that are 300. Oh, hit enter. So you can either click on one end, click in the other, and then hit enter, or, oh, now I made a mistake there, so it's not quite a mistake, but I click selection and pull that back in there. Okay, now so you're probably used to this stuff. Click the line item down here in Cupid or Costex or whatever you're using. So this isn't going to be totally new. Double click and measure all your 300. How do you know which one's 300, which one's 500, which one's 400? Well, put your little rule. That's 300. That one, obviously, as I said, is what did I say? 500? Yeah, 500. And those ones are 400. And there is dimensions there that will kind of tell you which is which. Once you've done that for all this floor plan, you move on to the next. As I said, the next one is the ground floor plan, and they'll be available there for you to measure into as well. Now, make sure you scale them, but you got to go ahead and measure each of the 4 floors. So you've got your basement floor, your ground floor, your first floor, your second floor, 5 floors. Okay. And obviously the top floor where the beams are, that's in the roof, but leave it in the structure. So we're not defining whether it's roof or whether it's floor construction as such from a frame point of view. You're just measuring the beams. Don't worry about the columns. And the other item you're to measure is the gross floor area per the project brief, and you should have no problems. I've set you up there to measure all the beams in terms of your concrete, your formwork, and your rebar. If there's anything else you want to measure, by all means, work away from a 2D perspective. But all you need to do from kind of an assessment perspective is measure your beams in part of the 2D. So hopefully it won't take you no more than a couple of hours maybe to do that, or even less. There is sections, there's elevations. You can take a look at them. The sections are quite handy. One of the floors tells you where the sections are, so you can actually have a look, but ultimately you don't need them because each of the beams in terms of their widths are different, so you'll be able to tell which beam is which. Okay, and that's it, and we'll move on with a video maybe next week or the week after.